Hi, I am so excited to announce I recently sat for and passed my SHRM Certified Professional Exam. The whole process, from deciding to take the exam to sitting for the test, took about 8 months. The first step in this process, which was the most difficult step for me, was deciding to sit for the SHRM exam and take the test to certify. I've never been a strong test taker, so I was hesitant to commit to taking the test. My manager was the first one to inspire me to take the next step and take the SHRM. She is SHRM certified, so I felt comfortable asking her questions about the exam and the logistics of getting certified. She said it was likely going to be the determining factor for promotions, either at my current company or at other companies when I go to look for new jobs, and I appreciated her being honest with me about it. She was the first one to nudge me to take the test, and she has been extremely supportive through my journey so far. The SHRM provides 2 ways to study for the CP and the SCP exams, with the SHRM Body of Applied Skills and Knowledge, the SHRM BASK, and the SHRM Learning System. The BASK is a PDF that showcases a number of competencies and key concepts that are covered on the exam. I'll go ahead and share my videos covering the BASK in the description box below. From the moment I began studying for the exam, I started studying the BASK. The BASK is 111 pages of content, and it structures itself according to the competencies and key concepts included on the exam. Some screenshots of the BASK are included here to give you an idea of what the BASK looks like. If you're thinking about pursuing the exam, but you aren't sure yet, I would highly recommend downloading the SHRM BASK before financially committing to anything, because it is a free download from SHRM's website, which is linked in the description box below as well. So I began studying the BASK in October, and I was studying the BASK through the holidays. To some extent, I thought the BASK was helpful. I began taking some practice tests and found that the practice tests I was taking to practice focused a lot more on practical application versus pure recall. I didn't think the BASK on its own did a particularly great job at portraying this or helping me get to where I needed to be for practical application. So in December, I emailed my boss asking about the online learning system SHRM has available for purchase. The learning system has a variety of resources available for those who purchase, and I thought it was much more interactive than the SHRM on its own. I am much more of a learner by doing, so seeing everything that was available with the learning system was appealing to me and how I learn my best. I was honest with my boss and said I thought this would be the best plan for my success when studying for this, and I was able to get reimbursed from my company for the purchase. There are 2 versions of the learning system available. While both include access to the online content, one version includes a set of physical, softcover workbooks for learners to work through alongside the online content. Access to the online content only costs $820 for SHRM members or $1,055 for non-members, and access to the online content with the printed books costs $945 for members and $1,180 for non-members. I purchased the online access with the books because work reimbursed me. If I was not being reimbursed, I'm not sure I would have purchased the books. I mentioned 2 prices for each version of the learning system just now, a member price and a non-member price. The member price refers to individuals who are paying SHRM members. You do not need to be a paying SHRM member in order to sit for either the SHRM-CP or the SCP exams, but being a paying member does have perks, including access to research, news and information, templates, how-to guides, and webinars, an Ask an Advisor service, and discounts on SHRM-branded educational programs, including certification exams. At the time of recording, professional memberships are $264 for 1 year, $475 for 2 years, and $673 for 3 years. Global, student, Enterprise and executive membership options are also available, and the link to view these different membership options will be linked in the description box down below. So after I purchased the learning system, I was granted access to the online system. The books took about a week or so to get shipped to me, but I could access the learning system within about 24 hours of making the purchase. I received an email confirmation that had my access code, and I went to the link included in the email and entered the code. From there, I was prompted to create an account with my email address and new password, and I was into the system. When I logged in for the very first time, I was met with a short tutorial of the learning system and was asked to take a 4-part placement exam. The first placement exam I took of the 4 took me a very long time. I think it was about 75 questions, and every 2 or 3 questions had a number of paragraphs that pertained to them. So each one gave a 4 or 5 paragraph piece of context to go along with the question, and it took me a while to digest the information and work through the first test. The other 3 were a little more digestible than the first one I took, but I was taken aback almost with the sheer vastness of the first one I took. After I took all 4 practice exams, I was taken to my dashboard. It took the results of my 4 practice tests and created a customized study plan for me and my strengths and weaknesses, so the areas that I was stronger in on my placement test than others are less prominently featured than some of my weaker areas. I worked through my study plan for a few weeks, and then I decided to purchase the My Spot to take the SHRM exam during the first 2024 testing window. A few things went into this decision and my timeline, and I did do some research before I purchased and began studying to ensure I would get the most opportunity out of my purchase and timeline. So there are 2 different testing periods each year you can sit for the SHRM, May through July and December through February. Access to the online learning system is valid for 18 months from the date of your purchase, so since I purchased in January, my access to the learning system is good until July 2025. Between January 2024 and July 2025, I have 3 opportunities to sit for the exam, May through July 2024, December 2024 through February 2025, and May through July 2025. I've never been the strongest test taker, so I wanted to make sure I had the most opportunities possible to pass this exam with the least financial impact. If I purchased the learning system in October when I began studying the BASK, my learning system access would have been valid from October 2023 to April 2025, but I would only have 2 testing windows available to sit for the exam with a valid learning system subscription, May through July 2024 and December through February 2025. You don't need to purchase the learning system or have a valid learning system in order to sit for the exam, but I felt more comfortable knowing if I failed during the first testing window, I could go back and study with the learning system for a few months without having to resubscribe. Something that I think is worth noting here is you can only take 1 exam per testing period. So in other words, if you want to take your exam within the May through July testing period and you take it on May 1st but you fail, you will have to wait until December to retest. Individuals can either take the exam online proctored remotely or at a local testing center. My local testing center is about an hour away, but there are a number of them across the country. SHRM partners with Prometric testing centers for their SHRM exam takers, so if you're familiar with your local Prometric center, that is likely where your exam will be. The SHRM certification exams are not available every day in the testing window at Prometric test centers, so there will likely be some planning to be done on your side as you prepare to sit for the certification exam. However, you can also take the exam at your home with a remote proctor. There are a number of rules and regulations that online test takers need to adhere to, some of which are included here on screen. The link to the full list of regulations is linked in the description box if you're interested in checking those out. Personally, I feel more comfortable going to a testing center just in case there are any technical issues or anything, which is why I'm choosing to test there instead of remotely. There are no additional fees for those who choose to test in person or remotely. Before you formally schedule the time, date, and location of your exam, you do need to register for the exam and receive an authorization to test. The authorization to test asks personal information like your name, phone number, address, and job title, but it also collects demographic information. This authorization to test ensures you are qualified to sit for whichever exam you are planning to take. An authorization application may take 7 to 10 business days to be authorized, and you may have to provide some additional information should SHRM ask for it. However, mine came back almost instantaneously that my authorization was approved. Your authorization number, which is included on your authorization approval email, is akin to your identification number. You use this to register for the exam, and you must bring that authorization to test approval email along with a form of identification to your testing center, or have them ready to show your remote proctor on your testing day. I took my exam on May 1st, which was the first day I was able to test for the 2024 testing season. The test was 4 hours long, and it started at 11:45 a.m. I got to the testing center before 11, and I was able to start my exam as soon as I got to the testing center. It was a 4-hour exam, and I was fairly comfortable taking the exam. In my previous video highlighting my SHRM journey that I posted when I was at the 6-month mark, I had 2 big key pieces of advice. The first was knowing your learning style and what style works best for you, and the second was having a strong grasp on the way SHRM asks their questions. After taking the test and being on the other side of the exam, I can honestly say knowing and being comfortable with how SHRM asks their questions is much more important than cramming content in before you sit for the exam. I feel comfortable saying I did not see any of the questions prior to my exam. In other words, all the questions were completely new to my eyes, and none of the questions were used in the practice tests I had been using to study. However, I was able to use the question answering skills I had gained throughout my practice and studying to earn the exam score I did. The exam is broken into 2 parts, both of which have 67 questions. Once you answer the first 67 questions, you can take a break, or you can choose to work through the rest of the test. I opted to skip the break and continue taking the test. In regards to taking the test, my biggest takeaway was all of the situational judgment questions were all clumped together in one section of the exam. While I was studying, my practice exams had given me a seemingly randomized mix of judgment and knowledge items. However, when taking the test, I really enjoyed knowing all the judgment items were together and in one section of the exam. After I hit submit on the exam, I was prompted with a 5-minute survey to answer questions about myself and my experience taking the exam. Even though the survey was only 5 minutes, it felt like the longest 5 minutes of my life because my stomach was in my throat wondering if I had passed. The survey questions included things like demographic questions, did I use the learning system, how many hours did I study for, how confident did I feel with my studying after taking the exam, etc., how confident I felt with my studying after seeing the exam questions, and after taking the exam was a difficult question for me to answer because I wasn't sure how I had done on the exam. After my 5 minutes were complete, on the tiniest font on the screen, said I had passed my exam. Those were the only 2 words on the screen, result and passed. I was so relieved. Afterwards, I got up from my seat, returned the dry erase book and marker I had been given to the front desk, and left my testing center. About 3 weeks after I tested, I received my official score report. Your score report comes back with a 3-page PDF, and the first page includes a scaled score chart. If you pass your exam, the scaled score shows as a 200. Once you receive a score of 200, the system stops scoring your exam because you've already achieved the minimum requirement to pass. However, if you don't pass, your score report would show you exactly how you scored. On the second page is a breakdown of the different areas of the exam, showing areas to improve and areas of strength based on how you performed on the exam. These results, along with the entire feedback report, are confidential. They are provided to the candidate for developmental purposes, and exam scores and feedback are not shared to anyone without candidate consent. The third page of my score report was a copy of my certificate with my name and signed by the President and CEO of SHRM. Now that I've passed my exam, what now? My recertification cycle period started on May 1st, just after I passed my exam, and now I need to upkeep my certification. I need to earn 60 continuing education credits within the next 3 years in order to keep my certification active, and there are a number of activities I can do to achieve that. This summer, I'm attending HR Summer School, which is a webinar series that is eligible for continuing education credit. If you're interested in attending HR Summer School, I've included the link to attend below. It is taking place June 11th through 13th, and it is 2.5 hours each day across these 3 days. It is completely free to attend, so if you're interested, I will see you there. Continuing education activities may advance your education, your organization, or your profession. Areas that advance your education may include listening to podcasts, completing university courses, or attending conferences and webinars. There is no limit on how many of these credits you may earn within a 3-year recertification cycle. Advancing your organization has a maximum of 30 credits per 3-year recertification cycle, and something like this involves completing and documenting project work that supports organizational goals and providing opportunities to advance capabilities in one of more HR behavioral competency areas. Likewise, advancing your profession has a 30 credit per recertification cycle maximum, and these include opportunities like presentations and researching, writing, and publishing. If you're interested in learning more about recertification, you can watch the videos I've created covering SHRM recertification. That's all for today's lesson. If you're interested in getting notified when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. Remember, HR is more than just acronyms. It's about people and possibilities. Time to clock out until next time. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.